Welcome back. We're ready to move on to the closing statements. This could be the last and final time that you're able to see some of these debaters in action. Over to the closing statements.
Honorable judges, worthy proponents, and ladies and gentlemen, abolishing something without implementation clearly doesn't make any sense. But rectifying the errors, proper analysis and proper implementation is the best solution. And as you say, if there's such an irritant, or in your words, a lip service, then take it off. But do not completely dissolve the 13th Amendment, which would give a wrong picture. Let me get to the main point. Yes, if you ask the majority of the people, they would say abolish the 13th Amendment. But in a democratic country, democracy doesn't really mean majority overpowering. The majority has to be shifted over to the minority. As a post-war country, it is essential that we do not remove the autonomy of our country. Even now, there are areas in the north and eastern areas where there are demining areas, rehabilitation centers. We need to first establish the provinces properly and then implement it in the correct way. And even if the war is all done for good, do you think the root causes for the war is eradicated? I don't think so. Is that what you're suggesting, my learned propositions? Are you trying to turmoil the past? Are you trying to make the minorities feel insecure? Today, justice has been brought to every doorstep of Piris, Pereira, Mohammed and Krishna. And is that what you're trying to abolish? Such an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. It is very clear that the propositions have turned a Nelsonian eye. And if you're probing, saying that it is the flaws of the government and the structural flaws, let me tell you, the Wensbury Rule, Article 154 QAD, gives sufficient answers to your question as to why to abolish the 13th Amendment. Let us be practical here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been 25 years. We need to build on what we have and not alienate our country. So, the clauses are clear. It's a clear way for democracy. It provides a linguistic equality for a pluralistic country such as Sri Lanka. Therefore, we need the 13th Amendment. As Colin R.D. Silva says, one language makes two nations, and two languages makes one nation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what has Team Lyceum told you today? We've told you to abolish the 13th Amendment. What has Team Muslim Ladies College told us on the other hand? They've told us to improve the 13th Amendment. But what did they concede to, ladies and gentlemen? They conceded that we want more devolution, which the 13th Amendment did not achieve in the first place. And we proved that to you using the INRE argument, where we told you that the Supreme Court, the most independent body in the country, as they conceded to as well, clearly stated that the 13th Amendment only achieves decentralization and therefore is in line with the unitary nature of the state. Therefore, we win that argument. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, they came here and told us at first that the 13th Amendment in itself is an excellent amendment and achieved the post-war situation. Ladies and gentlemen, if the 13th Amendment did work, we wouldn't have had to go and kill all those people, ladies and gentlemen. The government did not have to go to war because the 13th Amendment was supposed to solve the conflict. But because it didn't, ladies and gentlemen, we had to go through a war. Also, ladies and gentlemen, then they came up here and made a complete case shift. They told us that we want devolution as well, and the 13th Amendment can be improved. Let me ask you a question. When you take a pastry and you remove the chicken inside it and add fish, does it remain as a chicken pastry, ladies and gentlemen? No, it doesn't. It becomes a fish pastry. In the same way, ladies and gentlemen, you can't have a fish pastry just by eating a chicken pastry. And we are seeing the same thing. The 13th Amendment will not be the 13th Amendment with all the structural flaws that they have. We cannot change and amend this amendment further. Why? Because we clearly told you that it provides a too much centralization. It has a blanket clause that says if it contradicts national policy, then the government can intervene. What kind of unfair statement is this, ladies and gentlemen? Because we see that the Northeastern Provincial Council has not even been constituted yet. It has been 3 years after the post-war situation, ladies and gentlemen, and it's becoming a joke. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, they clearly told us that they have a new principle brought in which governs how the governor behaves. Ladies and gentlemen, if the Supreme Court is not respected, why will these principles be respected? On this basis, we believe in not no you can't, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to say yes we can. Thank you.
With the conclusion of the 4 rounds, there were still questions that were left unanswered. What is the key objective of the 13th Amendment? What is the level of power that should be held by the head of the state and the provincial councils? If not the 13th Amendment, then what is the solution? to see which of the teams have answered these questions correctly and to the point, and to evaluate the performance of the two teams, let me now ask the opinion as well as the judgments of Professor Rajiva Vijay Singha.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the debate very much, and I must congratulate all the speakers on a really interesting event. I have a couple of comments to make. One is that I think the proposition completely threw us, and I think the opposition as well, by deciding to abolish the 13th Amendment on the grounds that it was not strong enough. If you look at the debate in the country, people who claim that they want to abolish the 13th Amendment do so on the grounds that devolution or decentralization or whatever is a bad thing. But the proposition by saying the 13th Amendment should be abolished because they want more devolution actually did something that surprised us, and I don't think the opposition was quite expecting it. But given that all they were meant to do was abolish it, I suppose that was a fair enough technique, and they carried it out extremely well. I think the opposition spoke extremely well as well, and it was quite a close decision, but I will not announce the decision, and I will leave it to our final speaker to do so. I do want to make one very strong point that much as I enjoyed your debating skills, I think it is important to make sure that you get things quite correct. And I think I was slightly disappointed that on neither side were there objections to what were errors of fact. And I would have expected that, since you had studied this quite carefully, you would have known when the other side was not saying something correct. Just two very minor points. There is a change in the 13th Amendment with regard to language policy, and I think the opposition was correct in pointing out that that's one of the most important things, and they didn't want that changed, but since the proposition had never said they wanted to change that element, that was fair enough. But I think the whole point is that while language policy is badly implemented, Parliament does get all bills in all languages, and in actual fact we don't consider bills until all the translations are made available to us. So that is important. It's a simple fact, but at least Parliament follows that part of the Constitution, even if not many people do. And I think you're both correct in saying that you want those rights expanded. A few more things. The Supreme Court did not say that you needed a referendum to pass the Divinagu Bill, which by the way has not been passed as yet. The Supreme Court said that it needed certain things amended, and if some amendments were not made, it could be passed, so provided there was a 2/3 majority. So it doesn't mandate a referendum. A referendum is only needed if you are in fact amending the Constitution. But the final Supreme Court decision is the bill was within the Constitution. I think you also need to be a bit more precise about things like the governor's powers, etc., etc. The governor cannot dissolve the provincial council. There are certain principles before the provincial council can be abolished. There are ways of getting around it, but that doesn't mean that the amendment itself has something wrong in that respect. So simple question, while I think the points you made were marvelous, and let me say frankly from my own point of view, it has really been very heartening to see that all of you really believe that the more empowerment we give to people in this country, the better. So whether you do it through the 13th Amendment or through expanding the 13th Amendment, the fact that you all agree on it is, I think, a good sign for the future. But I think you also have to bear in mind that one aspect of the debate that we didn't hear, which is a vital part of the debate, is those who want to abolish the 13th Amendment. I personally think they are wrong. I'm sure you agree with me. But who want to abolish it because they think devolution is a bad thing. And so also remember to address your concerns to those concerns as well, because I think you will have to debate much more effectively when you're dealing with such people, rather than we're dealing with people who from your point of view really think the same as you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And Mr. Sukumar Rockwood, sir, what are your thoughts about the debate today? Did it match your expectations?
Given the fact that both teams are school children, they have done sufficiently well in their homework, in their study, and they both presented good arguments for and against implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. I will leave it to the fair lady on the panel to announce the winner. And adding more, I find that both teams had presented a good argument There were good points raised by both teams, the arguments very clear. Sometimes the answers given were insufficient, but I guess school children, but they had done sufficiently well, and I congratulate both the teams.
Ms. Nadika Jayatilaka, ma'am, were you pleased with the debate today, and how would you judge the speaking style of the debaters and how they brought out their arguments?
Yes, I really enjoyed the whole debate, and I must say that it is a good thing that we bring in these school children into a platform where they can air their opinions on whatever the current affairs in the country. And being the school children, I understand that they have studied very well on the subject. When we take a debate, there are three main things that we always look at: the matter, manner and the method. That is how you look at a debate. So the matter was definitely studied by both parties very well, and they put it in a correct manner. And I must say that going into the points that they could have improved a little bit, I understood that some speakers were kind of repeating on the same point that the opposition or the proposition was raised, and I think they would have gone into, maybe they would have clarified the point, and they would have gone into the second point and I mean give more information to the debate, bring in more information to the debate, so that they have I mean the opposition or the proposition have more chances to speak on. And also in a debate, it is an argument where sometimes you will have to agree or disagree on what you personally believe in. So I really saw in some speakers, in both parties, in some speakers I really saw that talent, I mean proving the point that they got to prove. Maybe in their hearts they do not believe in what they happen to speak on. So this is a best opportunity given to the school children, and I must say I always congratulate these children for coming up onto this kind of platform and air their opinions in a proper way. And I think but there are more points for improvement for the students.
Thank you very much.